Dawtal Feldor, the crown. "Make way for the king! Make way!" shouted the soldiers over the clamor of the crowds. It was mid-morning, the sun bright and clear, few clouds floating above them. The king's company rode through the large crowds of people, all clamoring to get a look at the young King Hradas. "Make way!" shouted the guards once more. King Hradas sat high upon a white stallion, trotting forward with ease through the street. He was the third in the procession, 2 knights riding abreast before him. Upon his brow the sun crown glittered brilliantly in the high morning sunlight. Hradas's face was cold, void of emotion, as was typical of the king of Weimar, yet he nodded as he passed the crowds, tilting his head towards them with solemn ease. Hradas's face was grim as the company reined their horses in, arriving at the tall gates of Puka. Looking to his left, Hradas could see the distant glimmer of Walt Lake across the plain. The city of Puka was strange. Tall, curving towers twisted above its keeps, reaching up like tendrils of some strange ocean beast. The stonework was a dark red, built from the bricks of the plains. Puka was situated a league from Walt Lake, which the city's only water source. The water was cool and fresh, flowing in from small tributaries to the north. The gates swung open, and King Hradas's company was welcomed in. Before them stretched the city of Puka, roughly hewn houses stretching out across the expanse. At the far side of the city, in the distance, Puka's strange spired town hall lay. Hradas spurred his horse forward, riding past his officers and into the heart of the city. The company had arrived after a long ride from Weyhak'duram, where the king and his men had been rallying the city's army. All the road from Duman to Weyhak'duram and Weyhak'duram to Puka, the company had ridden through the smaller villages and towns, recruiting captains of each town's small militia. Now, arriving at the last of the 3 great cities of Weimar, Hradas would wait and recover his men, waiting for troops to arrive from Peguila and the south of Weimar. Hradas dismounted at the entrance of the town hall, allowing a couple of his men to take the reins from him. From the houses all around the company, beggars, peasants, stonemasons, and artisans emerged, eager to get a glimpse at the king of Weimar. 2 guards stood positioned at the entrance to the hall. Hradas flicked a bead of sweat from his brow and moved forward. As he approached the doors, the guards immediately threw them open, allowing Hradas inside. The town hall was large, huge red sandstone walls twisting up towards to the spire above. Hradas marveled at the way the stone had been carved, taking in a sight he had never fully appreciated before. The town hall acted as a library as well, bookshelves spread out before them, lining the walls and the outer edges of the chamber. In the center, a great wooden table lay, surrounded by benches on all sides. The table was most likely the city's most valuable piece. It was carved from the fabled jadila wood of the old Peguilan Empire. Towering above the rest of the hall, a great stained glass window sat, 30 feet above the hall floor, the sun shining full through the green and blue glass. The image depicted the first of the saplings of imagination, its palms outstretched as the waters of life flowed out. Hradas's blue cloak fluttered behind him as he moved forward to the great table. He ran a hand over the shining surface, eyes glued to the precious wood. It reminded him of the bench which sat in Duman's sunroom. That, too, was made from the shining jadila. The main hall was all but deserted, only a few people visible through the archway which opened on a smaller adjoining chamber. Within, Hradas saw several scholars reading at lesser wooden tables. Apart from this, however, the town hall was void of presence. It was also extremely silent, save for a faint turning of pages in the adjoining room. So Lord Farrell was not here yet. Hradas scoffed. He had always thought of Farrell as a timely man, and certainly not someone to keep his king waiting. All the same, the hall was cool in contrast with the blazing heat outside. Hradas sighed and sat down on a bench, several of his men sitting beside him as they removed their helms. He could wait, thought Hradas. After all, they had all the time in the world. It was not 5 minutes before one of the guards who had been positioned outside entered the hall, a blue Valyrian cloak upon his back. "Your Majesty," he began, approaching Hradas, "my Lord Farrell sends his deepest condolences. He had meant to be here, yet his daughter is grievously ill, and he didn't want to risk the ride." Hradas nodded. "Yes, all right," he said, waving at the man. "Get me your next in line." "At once, Your Majesty," he said. Yet just as he turned, the door of the hall was flung open once more. A youth of fair skin coloring rushed into the room. He wore tight gray garments, and his black hair was slicked back. The other guard quickly took his leave. Running up, the boy stopped short as he reached the king. Hradas's guards were standing, hands on their sword hilts. "John," spoke the king, motioning for the guards to stand down. "I wasn't expecting to see you here. Has something happened?" John was breathing heavily, attempting to recover his breath. "Your Majesty, they've got her," he managed to wheeze out. Hradas was immediately alert, eyes wide, no longer caring who met him here. "They have? Where?" he asked breathlessly. The guards looked confused, but didn't question. "Do they have her here?" questioned the king once more. "Yes, your Majesty," he spoke. "They have her in one of the tents in the square." "Thank you, John." John seemed about to say something else, but the king was already gone, sliding past him quickly and moving towards the door, the guards on his heels. It was dark in the tent. This was the first thing Hradas noticed as he pushed through the tent flap. He ordered the guards to stay outside, even though they had insisted upon accompanying him. It was very dark. No lantern hung about, and the tent flaps were all closed. The witch sat at a small circular table. Through the gloom, Hradas thought he could see the witch smile as he sat down across from her. The pair sat in silence for a long while, Hradas with hands clasped upon the table. Due to the darkness, Hradas could not tell, but he thought the witch was staring at him across the table. Finally, the witch reached down at her side and pulled up a dark lantern. She lit a match and tossed it into the lantern oil. The dark tent was immediately brightened, the witch's gnarled form visible. Long, oily black hair swept around her back, and a long, crooked nose protruded from the center of her face. "Nama," spoke the witch, a small smile on her lips. "Nama," returned Hradas bluntly. The witch took a deep breath and stared into Hradas's eyes. "War is coming," said Hradas. The witch nodded. Yes, 'tis true." "And how would you know it?" questioned Hradas. The witch chuckled. "Oh, I know things, boy." "Oh, don't give me that look," she said, seeing Hradas's cold, annoyed stare. "We have bigger things to discuss." "Kjell," said Hradas, "you've given the dragon knife to my brother." "Ha!" laughed the witch. "Yes, indeed, very good." "Why?" His tone was dark and unforgiving. "You have no idea what's going on here, do you?" she questioned genuinely. "I think I have an idea," growled Hradas. He wanted to hit her, but he mustn't. He must keep his calm. "Be quiet, boy, and listen up," she said. Hradas snarled. "You are the king. The king gets to wear that golden thing you have on your face. Why?" she asked. Hradas couldn't believe she was talking to him like this, like he was some common peasant boy needing a history lesson. He was the king, and yet he answered. "It's a symbol of power and high status," he said. "It's an honor given to the king or queen of Duman." The witch sighed, nodding. "All true, yes, but wrong, my boy." Hradas's eyebrows narrowed. He could only take so much insolence. "Do you know your religious studies, your Majesty?" she questioned politely. Hradas was taken aback by her sudden use of "your Majesty," and he answered without thinking, "Yes." "Well, then you'll recall," began the witch, "that the dark sapling created a demon of death which would attempt to destroy the world of life the other saplings had made." Hradas sighed and nodded. He was a practical man. He didn't know if he believed all that nonsense about magic beings of light and demons and whatnot, but he had done his studies as a youth just the same. "Well, what is not told by our Book of Creation is that the saplings of light attempted to lock the demon within the earth so it could never reemerge. They used 3 seals to bind the demon within the earth. Each seal's power was imbued within a different magic item." "Yes," said Hradas. "I'm aware of the 3 seals, but the demon I'm not sure of." "Good," said the witch. "Then you'll know why Weyhak'duram is finally alive and crawling with evil after all these years." "The ring," said Hradas, his brain beginning to understand. "Exactly," she whispered. "Drakon's ring disappeared from Callio on the same night that the wall was raised." It was true, Hradas realized. "And the knife," said Hradas, suddenly growing angry. "Why? Why did you give it to him?" He was standing over her now, rage in his usually calm blue eyes. "I had my reasons," she said shortly. "That's not good enough," he yelled. "Did you know what he would become?" "I thought he might," she said, "but one cannot disobey fate. Sit down, boy." Hradas slid a knife from his waist, staring at her with anger. "Oh, put that away," she scoffed, "and sit. We aren't done here." He wanted to kill her. He did, But he couldn't. He found his body sliding back towards the chair, his knife hand sinking to his side. In his silence, it clicked in his head. Slowly, his hand went up to touch the sun crown upon his head. He grasped the cold iron band and slid it down his face, setting it on the table before him. The witch smiled. "Yes, that's right. Now you've got it." In the flickering gold light of the lantern, Nefrada studied the inscription along the band. Solzelaktur, kalame ofe Weyhak'duram, kalame ofe demaktur, kenilka ofe livaktur. It had never made sense to him before. He had had it translated. To see time, master of worlds, master of death, creator of life. It now made sense. The crown is the third seal, he said slowly. He felt stupid for not seeing it before. That's why they need to kill me, to get the crown. That's why we're going to war. Ah, he figured it out, she sneered. He would have yelled at her, but he felt too tired. His brain was reeling with the revelation. He set the crown back atop his head. "Your Majesty," she asked. That got his attention. "Yes?" "Do you remember how I asked you why you wore the sun crown?" "Yes," said Pradas hesitantly. "Do you know the true reason?" His annoyance had returned. "Apparently not," he said. "He who would wear the crown cannot be killed," she whispered. His brows furrowed. "What?" he asked. But before he could question further, the witch had pulled a knife from under the table, and lunging forward, she stabbed it into his chest. Except it didn't. The metal blade bent to the side as it touched his skin. Oh, it hurt like hell, but he was fine. Pradas gasped in a breath. He stared at the knife, the bent blade. He didn't speak. "Only one knife can kill you while you wear that crown, boy," she said. "The dragon knife," he replied. She nodded. "Damn," he said. "Consider yourself lucky, boy. You know, for the rest of us, it only takes a sword stroke," she jeered. "It's not that," he said. "Jetfarn has it. He's the one to kill me." Suddenly he laughed, a dry sound, floating through the tent and out into the summer air where the guards stood waiting. "Well, don't just stand there, boy. Find that lord. War is coming."